All right, I'm just jumping in. Is that okay?
Please do.
Okay, so you model every day that you can lead with your heart and your head. Would that accurately describe your days in the White House, or how have you changed since then?
Well, I use my head a lot more then, I guess, than I did my heart, but I use them both. Sometimes I had to use my heart, like when I was negotiating between two enemies. Quite often you have to have your heart set to accommodate both of them. Mm-hmm. But it was a very challenging job and one that I enjoyed very much. I had almost all my family living in the White House with me. And we particularly enjoyed going to Camp David every weekend, just about. Sometimes we go down to Georgia Island, to spend a day or two, but we didn't get home very often while I was president, but it was a very pleasant job.
Well, you've always been known as a man of faith, and I know that Habitat is unabashedly a Christian organization.
It is.
And it's really tough as a media person in this culture to stand as a Christian and yet be respectful of everyone else. How did faith inform your presidency? How did you navigate that in your time?
Well, I prayed for 3 or 4 times every time I was on the way to the Oval Office, and gave thanks on the way back to the White House. But faith was a very important part of my life then. I prayed that I would do the right thing, for the American people, that I would be honest and true. I never told a lie when I was in the White House. And I encouraged my helpers to do the same thing. So we told the truth, we kept the peace, and I prayed for peace and human rights, that I would exalt both of those. So we kept our own country at peace, and I think we were kind of champions of human rights at the same time. We've been a country now for 243 years, since 1776, and we've only been at peace 16 of those years. We've been at war 227 years, and at peace 16 years.
Wow.
And so a few of those years were when I was in the White House.
Habitat International, this is a global organization. How do you speak, or would you mind speaking to the role you believe America plays as a leader in this global economy in this world?
Of course, Habitat was formed in the United States, and then the founder of it, Millard Fuller, and his wife and family went over to Zaire, and they really got started with Habitat for Humanity in Zaire and came back here, very near Plains, Georgia. That's how we got involved in it. On the corner near Farm is where they started. So it was a biracial farm where they had black and white people living together, beginning back in 1940s, early 1940s. And when the civil rights movement started, the community basically turned against Cornet because they were, integrated. Mm-hmm. And when I came home from the Navy, Harry Truman had integrated the Navy and the Army and the Air Force and so forth, and also the Civil Service when he was in the White House. So he was always a hero of mine. And so we were kind of, you might say, liberal or moderate participants in the Sumter County Fair. And when I was in the state senate, I was on the school board first, and I ran for the state senate because all the governor candidates in Georgia were threatening to close the public schools if a black child entered a white classroom, and I didn't like that idea very much. So that's why I decided to run for state office. So I served in the state senate for 2 terms and then ran for governor, and then president later on.
Well, your shiner looks really good. First of all, you're looking really good.
Well, I'm glad.
As a 95,
it looks better than I did Friday.
It does.
Sunday.
You're healing fast. What can you say to the aging population about the facts versus fiction about aging? Any advice for them?
Well, the only 2 alternatives to living till you're old. One of them is I won't talk about it. The other one has been because I was lucky and I married the right woman to take care of me. So I think that Habitat doesn't distinguish between Jews and Christians and Catholics or Protestants or Muslims and Christians. We just appeal to all kinds of homeowners, and we welcome volunteers from all places as well. So Habitat is a Christian organization for the founder because Jesus Christ was a carpenter, and I happen to have the same initials, so I wear it on my belt.
You sure do.
But Habitat has always been open to all faiths to participate equally.
What do you think? We're here in Music City. I've got video of you singing, or at least chanting, with Dizzy Gillespie, Willie Nelson over the years. What music are you listening to these days?
Well, recently we've been infatuated with country music because of the very good Ken Burns.
Yeah.
So we watched all 10 of those series, including the later ones that have Garth Brooks and Trisha in it. And so we have been fascinated with that. I think it's the best thing I've ever seen on television. I like all of Ken Burns' stuff, but this is the best, I think. And it kind of gave us a preview of what to expect when we got to Nashville. So tonight we're going to go to the Bluebird Cafe and hear Garth Brooks perform.
Fantastic.
So, and then there's going to be a special, I think, Friday night for Dolly Parton.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So Dolly Parton and kids and and Trish and Garth have been very good friends of ours, and so is Willie Nelson, and so is Bob.
So you've moved on and loving country music. I'm happy to
I
hear
have
about that. If you would think about this for just a moment, in the last 5 years, can you think of a new habit or behavior that has improved your life?
Well, pretty much in the last 5 years, I've taken up painting, and
You and President Bush.
And I give painting a painting to the Carter Center every year. I auction off, and they bring a fantastic price because of because of competition for bidding. And before that, I made a piece of furniture and gave a bed or a chair or a table or some fancy piece of furniture every year to the Carter Center. So
what does that do for you when you're creating like that?
when I'm creating it, it's sometimes very tiresome and exciting to design a new piece of furniture and make it, and then to give it to the Carter Center and see it auctioned off is a kind of a heart-rending thing when it doesn't bring a good price. But it's also very gratifying when people get excited and start bid for it. So I've had made pieces of furniture that have brought as much as $1 million, and
Wow.
paintings that have brought $700,000, much more than they're worth. But made by a former president sometimes.
No, it's very special.
People think it's worth it.
What is one dream that you still have left that you want to see yourself accomplish?
Well, I want to continue to raise a family. We have about 45 or 46 in our family now. We have a lot of great children born every year, 2 or 3 every year, and that's kind of hard to stay up with. But one of the things that we have is a project at the Carter Center is to get rid of the last guinea worm case. And we have a few cases left. We started off with 3.5 million cases, and now we're down to just a handful in one country. But I want to see the last guinea worm case gone before I pass away.
Oh, I love that. Would that be what you're most excited about in the coming year?
No, I'm not the most excited about getting one, but we have just a steady challenge. We have trained over 30,000 nurses in Ethiopia. We can go to Ethiopia for 5 days and treat everybody in a whole region for a certain disease, like an eye disease called trachoma. And in 5 days, we can treat 10 million people. That's as many folks as live in Georgia. And that's very gratifying to have trained people that work side by side with us to do away with those terrible diseases in Africa that causes blindness and cripple people and so forth. So that's what Rosie and I work on most of the time.
What is, finally, and I know I'm
That's all right.
guarding your time, what is a challenge that you would like to issue to all Americans and to Tennesseans watching you today?
I think the main thing is to remember that in any fast-growing community, or even a slow-growing community like Nashville, of course, is fast-growing, and Atlanta is to remember affordable housing is very important. Because sometimes school teachers with low pay, or firemen or policemen, even they earning a full-time salary can't make a down payment on a decent home for a family. And so I think that a project like Habitat makes it possible for people well off, like I am. I'm fairly well off. To cross that border between very poor people who don't have a decent house in which to live, and people that have always had a good house to live in, make that crossing that barrier between different kinds of people easy to do. So in Habitat, everybody's the same. Everybody working on this project is, feels like they're kind of the same for a while. And then the homeowners are very happy. They've gotten a decent home in which to live at, raise their children. So that's the wonderful thing about Habitat. Another thing I like about Habitat is that we don't give away anything except love and affection, and care for one another. But they have to pay full price for the house and even put in hundreds of hours of work on a project like this. And so we give them sometimes 30 years to pay with no interest. So even the poorest of persons can afford to obtain and to own and to take care of a decent home in which to raise a family.
Well, thank you for the difference you've made in our world.
Well,
Mr.
thank you.
Carter,
Well,
it is an honor to talk to you and to continue to spread the message of Habitat and
Well,
to
thank you.
continue to change lives.
and I'm sorry I got a slow start this week, but I was determined to come and work on this Habitat project. And we've been really pleased at how Nashville has welcomed us and how they've done a good way of getting this whole project started. Thank you.
Well,
thank
thank
you,
you.
everybody that listens to this.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And our best to Rosalind as well.
I'll tell her. Thank you
Okay.
very much. I've
Take
enjoyed
care.
it.